with a sense of you, when you've connected with yourself in such a way that, you don't see what you're doing as brave, it's just you are being who you are.
Yeah.
How has that evolved for you in that sense? How is there kind of such a comfort in like, oh, I am who I am?
Great question. That's been a long and tough journey. So, as I said, now I understand that I'm neurodivergent and recognizing that one of my biggest heartaches growing up and even into adulthood was that I didn't really fit in and I couldn't really understand why I didn't fit in. And so that was most of the lens, especially my teenage years and young adulthood. That was the lens that I saw everything through, that I just don't fit. And I don't understand why I don't fit. Now that's the autism and I understand that. But for a long time, it was my biggest heartache. And I became great at masking at this. That's not being inauthentic. It's a neurodivergent way of trying to seem like everything is okay and trying to fit in. And so I've never been bullied at school. I got on with everybody, and interestingly, for me, it was just normal. But interestingly, people would always say that I got on with the people with so many different groups of people, and I had this for a long time. What I used to say is, "Oh, I just sit on the outside of groups. I don't really get into the middle." And so I'd reframe the narrative that no, 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 I'm just on the outside, and it's great because this is the position I like to be. When actually, I just didn't know how to fit in, and um, through some complex personal relationships, I lost my identity, lost any friendships I had, family, all of those things. And when that two back to back, when those relationships imploded, and suddenly I was out on my own again, it was well. I don't even. I remember one day I woke up and went, I don't even know how I like my eggs. I don't even know how I like things anymore because I had lost all of that in trying to make these relationships work. And so the first thing I did was I went to group therapy because I went, at some point, I'm going to blame a lot of what's happened on myself and I need to also have that support. And I was intentional in exploring who I am. So I'm going to try new things to see what I like. And so at the time, Groupon was huge. And so I just booked a load of Groupon sessions that I've never tried before. And I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I try something, I like it, I understand a bit more about myself, and actually recognizing that was my mother's attitude when we were growing up. Try things and see. And I hadn't made that connection. So I did classical sculpture where you can only use your hands. I was like, oh my God, this is teaching me patience. It was great and frustrating. I did. I tried one class of pole dancing. My flesh is not made for those things. Oh my God, it's so painful. And I have a real respect for people who can do that. It is not easy. And then I tried belly dancing. So I did all these things. I did art and all sorts of things. And those helped me to work through, yeah, I like this. And what is it I like about this? And how can I kind of connect with them? So that was one part. And then there was another bit where I had a beautiful relationship and then it went south. After a period of time, it went south. And we broke up and I remember going, oh my God, I miss him. I miss that relationship. And then I went, well, what is it that I missed? And I said, I realized that what I missed was the intimacy. I wrote this list and I wrote down times that we were intimate. So I've always been experimental and kind of processing. So I wrote down this a couple of times when we had been intimate, just as narrative. And then I went, well, what is it in that moment that I felt? I felt curious. I felt playful. I felt secure. I felt seen and heard and all of these things. And so I ended up with this list of characteristics. And then I set myself a challenge and I said, for the next 30 days, I'm going to do one thing each day that helps me feel one of these things. And it cannot depend on anyone else. And I document it and I did it online. I did it on Instagram just as a putting it out in the universe. And the first couple of days, yeah, it was fine. And then you get to day 9 and suddenly I'm like, what am I going to do? I've got all these things.
Yeah.
And it just became a really beautiful process of understanding how to be intimate with myself and how to love myself. And because I can't be in any other relationship, whether it's personal, intimate, what have you, unless I understand myself. And so that became the journey and the narrative. And I just continue to do that. So now I take myself on dates and I love it. And I do all sorts of things and I try new things and I see life as a series of experiments. And the worst that can happen is it just doesn't work. And it's like, okay, didn't work, move on.